Can you not? Right, okay. Let me move. Yeah, that's fine. Okay. Sorry?
Can you hear us?
Hello, hello. So I'll mute everybody when you're talking anyway, so makes it a bit easier. Okay. Good. Sean, how was your couple of minutes of fame yesterday?
Yeah, it was interesting. That was a bit of a rush, you know, as always, but that was good. It was good to see the moonrise and you know, document it.
Right, okay,
yeah, and I went out last night. It was really nice. I caught it just as it came over the horizon. It was pure red. You know, it's lovely to see.
right.
It was good. All good. It was good.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
Anyone else been up to something? Anything?
Hang on. Get these headphones in. How's that? The moonrise and you know, document.
I started it early. We've got quite a few already.
Excellent.
Good. Hi, Kev.
Are they finishing in time for 8 o'clock?
Can't see you yet, but I can see you there. Hi, David.
I see quite a few. We've only got 12 in. There might be more on YouTube.
Yeah.
Hi, Julian. I can see you there. Hi, David.
Hi, good evening.
There's a bit of a delay there. Is that yours, or Shabby? Is that yours replaying it in with a bit of a lag there? Yeah, I can hear it. It keeps replaying me. Right, yeah. Yeah.
Looks good from my point of view, Dave.
Good. That's all right.
Close enough.
It's in sync.
Yeah, no, I could hear an echo, so I think that was coming through Shabby's system. No, I can't hear it now, so that's fine.
So we've got the junior place again, like Amesbury.
So we're a little bit early, so
And some planning in the housing department, which is very similar to what he was.
so what's everybody been up to then?
Not to moon.
Right.
Not been out too much.
No?
Enjoying the weather, that's for sure.
Yeah, definitely enjoying the weather. Yeah.
Yeah, very nice.
Did a little bit of sorting out in my shed. things weren't quite right. So rearrange a few bits in there that annoy me every time I go out there in the dark. I think I must sort that out.
That's
so
it.
A bit of that today.
Getting to that stage where you can do all these little things you've never had time to do.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've got too many of those at the moment. I think you always put off and say, I really don't want to do that, but you
I know. Yeah.
Oh, got to do that now.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, there's no excuses.
Yeah.
I'm quite lucky. I've got my astronomy club seeding, Norwich Astro is just up the road, so it's kind of my daily exercise. But I've volunteered to keep an eye on the place.
Oh right, okay. That's
so
good.
I cycle up there, and just sort of open the gates, make sure everything's okay. And there's a pool table there, so
Right.
I'll practice in pool for a little while. But maybe by the time we get back, I'll be good at it.
Yeah.
You never know.
There's always a bonus somewhere. I see Rachel's got a little glass of something.
Has she?
Just a small one.
Happy birthday.
Thank you,
Happy
Dave.
birthday.
Thank you, Sean.
Welcome.
Thank you, everyone.
Evening, everyone.
I'm having a glass of water.
Hi.
Evening all.
Yeah, it's been a bit cloudy here today, so I haven't attempted to get anything, but it's been really warm and nice, so enjoying that, definitely.
Okay, I just started.
Johnny in Ottawa. What's the weather like in Ottawa?
Oh, it's been snowing this morning. Everybody's pissed off.
Seriously?
We just had the snow melt about a week ago. And I'm finding all the stuff in my backyard that I didn't put away before it started snowing. And now it's snowing again.
Oh,
Wow.
no.
So
That's definitely not good.
When's it likely to stop snowing and get a bit...
it's fairly normal that we get a snowfall sometime in April, but it won't hang around. So it should start to get warm. There's a guy on Twitter, an Ottawa weather record guy, who's running a book on when we're going to get our first 20 centigrade day of the year. And it's coming up.
Hi everyone on the YouTube channel.
Evening, Dave.
Oh, Steve, you're right.
I hope everybody can hear us safe and sound. We are just setting up the Zoom settings, and hopefully we're gonna start in a couple of minutes. Hi Bobby. Hi Frosty.
That's what it's all about. So actually seeing some faces.
Just watching the end of Star Trek.
That's good.
Again. The original series.
Right, okay.
The best.
The best, you're right. Yes, it was.
You see, it's so funny. I completely missed those Star Treks. And for me, it's not the same thing. Don't get me wrong, I totally understand the value of it. But I just can't be that enthusiastic about it as probably you would. But I know why, because I have some programs from my childhood that when I was younger.
Wow.
Well, kind of 20 years older, or earlier. And when I show this to some people, they just don't really get it. So it's probably a generational thing.
Wow.
You keep saying that.
Don't worry, we all gonna get there.
Yeah.
Trial.
What? The hell?
There's people testing their audio.
It sounds like it, yeah.
There's an automated button you can click to test it. I think.
Yeah.
Trial. That works.
That is a bit of a trial. Keep going on like that.
It's good.
Working well.
That's good.
Oh dear.
Well, I've been just processing some photographs last night of M81 and M82.
Oh, excellent.
I'll just share my screen to show you what the results were from last night.
Yeah, that's fine. I'll stop sharing mine then. Yep, there you go.
Oh, hang on.
Wow.
Where is it gone? Hang on.
Hey. Oh, it's great, isn't it?
Hi, folks.
Hi, John. You all right?
Not bad, you?
Good, yeah.
Nicely sunburnt.
Well, you shouldn't start. You should know by now.
Hi, Dave.
Hello there. You all right?
Yes, thank you.
Good, good.
Wow.
Somebody who's not on mute.
Yeah, we'll have to find out who it is and mute them. I'm gonna change how it runs anyway, so I'm gonna put a password on it for next time. So the link will change next time, and it will just be the same link that will run over and over again. So and it'll have a password on it. So hopefully we can stop anything that might sort of automatically try and.
Everybody who's watching the YouTube channel, we are going to start it in a couple of minutes. It's Dave set up this
I've got it on the computer.
this Zoom stream, and I'm just chipping in with YouTube. So we starting in a second.
Evening, Dave.
Hello, hello.
Good evening.
Right?
I'm fine. How about yourself?
Yeah, not bad, not bad. Been busy.
I keep very busy at the moment.
I know. I've seen. Yeah, all these things you've been printing off.
Well, he's running there in the background.
Oh, is it? Crikey, yeah. And for those of you who don't know Raoul, he's been 3D printing lots and lots of safety masks and sending them off to... Where have you been sending them off to? All sorts of places, Raoul.
GPs, GP surgeries,
Excellent.
elderly homes, pharmacies, whoever needs them.
I guess a lot of people do these days.
Yeah, I'll have to.
Yeah, well done.
Take that, Ralph.
Right.
Did anybody observe the Starlink satellites lately? I know we all hate it, but
not to.
I managed to take a photo of it yesterday. A close-up photograph. It was a little bit too far away still. It was around 45, 50 degrees above the horizon.
Right.
But I can definitely make up the solar panels and the main satellite bus, so you can definitely see the shape of it.
Great stuff. Yeah.
Sadly, I missed. So this is the latest batch, and they keep shooting through the sky. And a couple of days ago, it was really at the peak. And sadly, I missed it. I didn't pay attention, and now obviously they all kind of fading away, or when they passing, it's still too bright. So it's it's a bit difficult.
Okay, we got what 44 people in now, so I'll keep an eye on the numbers.
Okay.
But really want to get cracking, because obviously we need to be out there for 8 o'clock again.
I'm gonna speed up a bit, because usually it's a bit over an hour, but I'm gonna talk about the main things. And
yeah, okay, so I'll just very quickly just go through the meetings and say, so this Saturday there's a joint meeting with Go Space Watch. I've got it right this time. Apollo 13 anniversary, and I'm going to be talking about the Apollo 13 mission. And then Tuesday we got Terry Lovejoy. He's going to tell us about his top 10 comets, and that's looking forward to hearing what he's got to say about his top 10 comets, because a few of my favourite comets are ones he's discovered, which is great. Thursday we've got a couple of people who's offered to show some pictures, so that's good, on the 16th. And then 21st we've got Paul Fellows talk about Hawking's black holes and got the other bits hidden and the edge of physics. And then another general chit chat, I thought, to get people to show what they've been up to. But of course, we're getting lighter nights now, so it'll get less and less, I guess, as time goes on. Okay, and then of course, you know, we want a little bit more of what you've been done. And if anybody can do some live streaming, I've practiced it a couple of times from my shed, and it seems to work. So we try and get some of that done as well. Okay, so without further ado, I think we ought to go to Shabby, who's going to tell us all about ISS imaging.
Hopefully.
Okay, so it's all yours. So if I mute everybody, if you can switch your webcams off as well, that would be great, because that will save a bit of bandwidth.
Okay, so I think we are... Am I sharing? Yes.
Yep, I can see your script.
Brilliant. Okay. All right. Okay, so... Oh, good evening, everybody. My name is Sabi. I'm an amateur astronomy photographer, and more becoming an amateur International Space Station photographer. This is just simply becoming my thing, I think. Probably when somebody comes to a point that begins... I'm sorry?
That's right, Shab.
Oh,
Shabby, carry on.
so I think a lot of us, when we start astronomy photography, we don't really know where we're gonna end up and what we're gonna do. I think I'm one of those people who perfectly knows what he wants to do, and that's definitely the International Space Station and smaller satellites, spacecrafts. It's just I love doing it. There's a passion, and I hope to share a bit of it with you guys. So let me show you first a video. I got a really good contact at the ESA, European Space Agency, and they were kind enough to offer a couple of videos for use. And I just did, it's like a warm-up for us. So please welcome. Alright, so this was the warm-up with some beautiful footages. And okay, International Space Station. Probably most of you is absolutely familiar with it, but yeah, just a recap. So this is the humanity's best and biggest achievement probably we've ever built. It's a corporation, as the name suggests, it's an international corporation. And a couple of countries like America, back then the Soviet Union or Russia, Japan, and some of the European countries are contributing, plus Canada, to this amazing and awesome project, which is basically a laboratory. But how would I summarize, if you would ask me, what exactly the International Space Station is? Well, the simpler definition is probably that it's a large spacecraft which orbits Earth and there are astronauts living on it. But if you want to go a little bit deeper, I would say that this is basically a laboratory in microgravity, and we do all kinds of researches, including biology, human biology, physics, astronomy, meteorology, Earth observations, and lots of really interesting things. So what is the purpose of it? Why did we build it? I know it's a controversial topic because lots of people, including me, I love the space shuttle program. And so we spent about 3 decades running, well, America spent the space station, the space shuttle program between 81 and 2011. And despite it was a beautiful program and it served its purpose to take basically mass to low Earth orbit, basically the problem was with it that it took around 70% of NASA's total budget. And in my opinion, we didn't have enough time, they didn't have enough resources, to do proper interplanetary missions and experiments that probably NASA is supposed to do. So yes, but was it just a lost 3 decades? Obviously not, because probably the direct consequence of having the shuttle is basically the International Space Station, because the space shuttle carried most of its components to space. The first expedition included 3, one astronaut and 2 cosmonauts. The 1 astronaut was William Shepard, and the 2 cosmonaut was Yuri Gidzenko and Sergei Krikaev. So this is how it looked at the beginning. So you could see on the bottom the Zvezda module, and on the top you could see the Unity module. So this marked the birth of the International Space Station. And okay, this is the crew who was the first crew who I just mentioned, and this is a comparison. Roughly this much the International Space Station grew, which is just remarkable. It really grew big and huge. This is a nice comparison here, how big the International Space Station is compared to other objects. Obviously for us Britons, well, who lives in Britain at least, the London Eye is one of the famous landmarks, and it's a good comparison. It's a little bit less wider than London Eye. So there are some interesting facts. So a lot of people would think that on the International Space Station they're always experiencing weightlessness, but it doesn't mean there is no gravity. They experience 90% of Earth gravity, but because they are basically constantly falling with the station together, that's why it feels for them as weightlessness. Also some facts basically about the International Space Station: the length, the width. It's huge. It's about the size of an American football field. Its daily orbital period is about 16 times a day, so 16 times. So it means that they observe 16 times sunrise and sunset, which can be just a remarkable point of view. I think anybody could cope with it easily with the view. I think it's just magnificent. Orbital decay is probably something I would highlight, because so it's 400 kilometers or 260 miles above Earth's surface, and despite it's a really high altitude, still atmosphere is slightly present, and it means that every month it's losing 3 kilometers from its altitude. So that's why they need to always sort of doing an orbital correction maneuver. Okay, some key discoveries and researches. We do know now that living in microgravity is having a really bad impact on human body. So they are actively doing researches about how to eliminate this effect. We know that the bone mass and the vision deteriorates really badly. So they try to keep themselves in shape, so they do 2-3 hours of exercise. They also doing some really interesting experiments that how smaller organisms would survive outside in the vacuum in space. And since the International Space Station, we do know that certain organisms easily survive living in this harsh, hostile environment. So it opened up the possibility that possibly life came to Earth from somewhere else, because it's possible that life can survive being in space. Also, we do some medical researches. We do all kinds of things like growing protein crystals. They are trying to come up with new research experiments, things that cannot be done on Earth or just more advantageous in the microgravity environment. Also, we have the AMS, the alpha magnetic spectrometer, which has been just fixed lately. I don't know if you follow the news about the International Space Station, then you know that they had to do 4 spacewalks, because AMS meant to just do the job, and once it's broken. But it was so successful. What it does is basically we are looking for sensitive. So it's the most sensitive detector we've built, and we are looking for cosmic ray particles. Basically, we are detecting electrons and their antimatter counterparts, and this research opened up a whole new universe to us. So probably that's why they rushed to fix it. So you can see on this photograph the space shuttle with the AMS at its loading bay. On the right, that's how it looks in the lab, and this is basically the mission that I think that's Luca Parmitano. That's Luca Parmitano. I can see the flag on its shoulder, and that's the AMS, which is on the top of the ISS. You need to know that with the ISS, this is how it orbits Earth, and this side is the zenith side that faces always towards the space, and this side, the Earth-facing side, is called the nadir side. So they also were doing some researches with flames, because flames tend to, so burning is more efficient in microgravity, but they do all kinds of researches. This is a video. They're doing some exercise, and also they are growing certain plants, because if we're gonna go ever to live in space or living on another celestial body, we cannot always bring everything with us. So we need to be able to grow certain things in space. So that's one really good stuff. Also, what's the fun side probably on the International Space Station is eating. That's always probably the best part, because you can do all kinds of fun things whilst you are eating, and they do fun things. I'm pretty sure all of you have seen some of these footages that they sort of, spinning the pizzas, or doing some liquid stuff and then drinking it off by when it's floating, or M&Ms, or you will see some of these things in this footage. So that's always something that that's a very useful experiment that they can conduct when they try to reach children, because obviously that's something that the kids, they love seeing. This is the fun part of being in microgravity. I think most of the people who ever lived, this is Chris Hadfield, who was a social media sensation when he was up there. He sang Space Oddity. Everybody probably already familiar with it. So this is Peggy Whitson. She is now currently holding the longest time spent in space by a woman. So, and probably she did the most spacewalks as well. So these are pretty cool human beings, let's be frank. The best of us, basically. Right. How did I discover ISS? Well, first of all, I bought myself a telescope in 2013 from Widescreen Center, from Simon Bennett. And then there was already something that got me started. And then when I go on to internet, I saw some smashing amazing photographs taken by Thierry Legault, Martin Lewis, Ralph van den Berg, Philip Smith, some crazy good photographs. So I was just thinking, what if I'm gonna start pointing my telescope and my camera towards the International Space Station. Then I realized, of course, that the space station is visible to your naked eye. So if you just know when it's gonna pass your sky, then it's just, you know, you just go out and you just observe it. And yes, and then I put my camera on, and it's funny, I took my photograph, and I always ask people what do they think, what it looks like. Well, I'll show you. So this is my photograph. I'm gonna zoom in a little bit, if I can. Can I? No, it doesn't. Okay, anyway, so no matter what people say, for me it is always going to remain a skiing bunny. Always going to remain that. This is the ears, this is the ski, and this is its tail. So when I saw it, I was like, okay, this is weird. This is, what am I doing? Right, so why am I taking photos, or why do we take photos of the International Space Station? Well, first of all, it's a personal experience. So you doing it from beginning to start, you do the setup, you do the imaging, the processing, everything. So it's your child. Then obviously it's once you start photographing something that you want to learn about that photographic object, it doesn't matter what kind of photography you choose, you just want to learn exactly what do you see, why do you see that, details, things like that. And of course it's bloody interesting. So, you know, when you see these things in the news or YouTube or here and there popping up, and suddenly you can actually see things to yourself, and I will represent through a couple of photographs exactly what I mean by that. Okay, so where do we begin? It's good to, so first of all, get familiar with the space station, what's going on and why is it happening. There are some websites and applications which worth downloading. I will point it out as well, because I created a website, and basically that's purely about the International Space Station photography. So I will end my talk with that, and I will show you how you can get your applications and websites information about flyby predictions. Also, it's periodic. So we have 2-3 weeks of evening passes, then occasionally we have 2-3 weeks of morning passes, and 2-3 weeks when we can't observe the International Space Station at all, because when it would be visible, it's daytime, so we just can't observe it unless there is a solar transit, so it goes in front of the solar disk. Okay, yes, and lots of things are happening on the space station. There are always some cargo spacecrafts going on to and from the space station. There's a new crew. Today we just had the MS-16, Soyuz MS-16 spacecraft successfully launched from Baikonur, and then 6 hours later they just docked. So lots of things are happening basically up there. Okay, so what exactly? So what kind of events can we capture? So first of all, before I get into that, why can we observe the International Space Station after sunset or before sunrise? It's because it's so high up above Earth's surface that even though it's already, like in this photograph, well, it's a drawing by my beautiful hands, it's already above the night area, but because it's high up, the sun still can illuminate it. I have another drawing, again, some masterpiece from me, and I have a slowed down animation. So in this one you can see as space station enters the shadow, so goes into Earth's shadow, but you can still see that for quite a lot of time, for quite a long time, it's still illuminated. You see, now it's in the dark, but it's still perfectly illuminated. These are the periods we try to image when it flies by after sunset or before sunrise. Okay, these are my best shots, what I've ever taken, and I'm really proud of these because it's been a progress on harder and harder targets, and obviously it becomes very interesting when you capture something historic. So SpaceX launched its so-called Crew Dragon spacecraft last February, if I remember well. So this was the test flight, and hopefully in mid-May, finally America is going to launch 2 astronauts from American soil, which is a huge thing because America stopped doing that in 2011 when they retired the shuttle services. Okay, so what happened? This is the Crew Dragon, and so this is the Crew Dragon. This is where they walk in, and then this is from inside. This is the launch. The Falcon 9 rocket just takes off from Florida. It's another shot. This is a long exposure shot. This is quite nice, not by me. It's previously with Jim Bridenstine, Elon Musk, and the 4 candidates going to space for the first time. This shot was taken from space. This is the external camera from the Crew Dragon. This is the Crew Dragon on the way. I'm just showing these photographs for people who just probably not familiar with the Crew Dragon spacecraft. Docking, this is at a distance. And basically this is me setting up my telescope. I'm always manually tracking the International Space Station once everything is set. And you see, this is where it just gone through. This was a bad night, but on the next one, so this is an animation made from the best frames that I took on the second night when it was eventually successful. So when I capture enough sharp frames, I can string them together and it comes out as an animation. So on this video you can see this is the Canadarm2, the robotic arm, and this is the SpaceX Crew Dragon spacecraft. This is docked to the aft of the Harmony, the Harmony module. This is again another shot. This is the docked Crew Dragon. It's a tiny spacecraft, and as far as I know, nobody else took a photo of the docked Crew Dragon to the International Space Station. You can identify on these photographs the big radiators. The solar panels are, we can't see them because these are the big panels, so they're not showing their surface. Instead, they are more on the side. They're showing the edges, and that's why sometimes they just look like they are completely invisible to us. So this is again a little presentation of that docked spacecraft, and again the same animation. And why do I know that this is Canadarm? Is because once you start once you start following everything that's happening, news and certain channels, then I realized that there are some cameras on the space station, and when I found the right footage from that day, I could see that the Canadarm is stretched out like that. So I can now for certain that that's the robotic arm. So I mean, just imagine that basically with a 10-inch Newtonian you can capture these kind of details. This is my equipment. So I use an equatorial platform. Sometimes I put underneath the Dobsonian mount to help myself when I'm focusing and I'm aligning everything. I am using a tail rod for aiming. Some people use, I know Martin Lewis is using different system, and all my friends basically, some people, you know, they can use the finder scope. Some people can use a red dot finder. It's some people just put another camera and they just watching it on the screen. I think Philip Smith is doing it that way. So yeah, there's a lot of ways. To be honest, the most important is you need to find out what suits your needs the best, what works for you, and then just stick with that. That's another shot. I'm always doing my observations from the street because I'm living on a ground floor and I have very limited visibility. So yes, it's not ideal. It's far from ideal, but I always said if this works this way, it will work anywhere in any circumstances. So I don't really mind. I'm using a ZWO 224MC color camera. It's a high frame rate camera, and it can. I'm recording at around 100 frames. And this is the splashdown of the Crew Dragon spacecraft. Okay, I have one story that has a London sort of interest. There are three of us. My really good friend Martin Lewis, Nicolas Joanu, and myself. We are all amateur imagers, and we decided that we are going to capture something, if possible, that's very tricky and very rare. So the Soyuz MS-13 spacecraft was going to the International Space Station. I think it was last July the 20th, on the historic 50th birthday of the first moon landing. And so you can imagine that the pressure was quite high on us. So this meant to be a 6.5 hour ride to the International Space Station. It's an amazing thing that they could cut down the 2-day journey to the International Space Station to basically 6.5 hours, which matters a lot because a Soyuz spacecraft is a packed, tiny little cabin. They are squashed with all kinds of stuff, and it's not good. So once they made it to the International Space Station, so we were expecting it to happen. We were expecting to have one flyby at, I think it was around 10 o'clock in the evening, and there was another flyby just around midnight. And at the first one, I could manage to see, this is the separation, by the way, between the Soyuz and the third stage, and then it will open up its solar arrays in a second. So at the first flyby, I could see the International Space Station, and I could see about 10, 15, maybe 20 degrees behind the Soyuz spacecraft, the Soyuz MS-13 spacecraft following the International Space Station, which is bloody amazing because you know that there are 3 humans on board. So it's not just hardware, it's actually much more. It's when people are on board, it's a totally different story. And then, so we've been waiting. The sky was really generous with us. I really can't complain. We were very lucky, I have to say. And on the next flyby, I couldn't see another source of light. So that was already a good indication. They meant to dock roughly 10 minutes after our flyby. And I know for a fact that sometimes they are early. With the Soyuz spacecraft, it happens that they arrive early to the space station. So for our greatest luck, it didn't. So this is the footage I recorded with my phone because I wanted to rewatch the live coverage later, and I wanted to know exactly which part of the live coverage was coinciding with the flyby. So when I spotted the space station, I started recording the live coverage. And why was it useful? I'll tell you in a second. So we were lucky enough to capture the International Space Station and the Soyuz spacecraft. And so I have never captured anything like that before. This was the crew, and this is the shot. Obviously this is processed, but this is the space station and this is the Soyuz spacecraft. We were incredibly lucky on that evening because this is the space station, and usually they dock either I think it's either the Poisk docking port or the Rasvet docking port, but I know they have some setup what they prefer usually. And there is one docking port in here, the aft Zvezda docking port. And if the Soyuz docks from underneath, then probably we have nothing to see because it might just blend into the space station, because the space station is a bright object as well. But because it had to fly all the way around and docking from the side, basically from the back, that's why we were lucky enough to photograph it. Martin and myself, we were lucky enough to photograph it, and I know for a fact that it was the distance between the two objects is precisely 76 meters. And why do I know that? It's because of the recorded footage that I done with my phone, because on the live feed, sometimes they show the Soyuz external camera, and on the external camera, this is another frame by the way, so I get two really good frames, and I got some animations when it just comes alive. It's probably 6 frames string together, and it's incredible how well you can see the solar panels of that Soyuz spacecraft. And that's the other one. You can see that they are kind of, the angle is changing as the flyby was proceeding. And so they always share a render that what's happening, and you can see this is where the Soyuz MS-13 docked, basically. And so this is Nicola Joanou's animation. He had some technical problems, but he waited another 92 minutes, and then he captured the International Space Station with the MS-13 already docked to it. And why do I know it's 76 meters? Is because I was recording the footage, and this is the view of the Soyuz external camera, and you can see here this one with the red square that says 0.076 kilometers, and it also always showing the relative speed, so it's speed relative to the International Space Station, so how fast it's approaching or drifting away. So obviously these informations were super helpful when it comes to actually find out details about what you actually can see. Also, there was a big thing going on lately, the last Dragon spacecraft. So this is the SpaceX Dragon 1 orbital design. So NASA and SpaceX made a contract. It's called the Commercial Resupply Services. That was the first contract, and SpaceX committed itself alongside with that time ATK, Orbital ATK, with their Cygnus spacecraft to do the supply missions to the International Space Station, food, water, experimental tools and certain tools as well to the International Space Station, different elements, what they require. And this is the Dragon spacecraft, which had 20 missions. The first 2 was a test mission, and one they lost during one Falcon 9 rocket blew up in 2015, and this was the very last mission. Ended, I think, 2 days ago with a splashdown. So this is from the rear, and I show you why it's important you to see it from behind. Is because you can take photographs of it, which is obviously you can take photographs of it. So this is a close-up animation again with the Canadarm. This is the beam, the Bigelow expandable habitat. This is the MS-15 Soyuz MS-15 spacecraft. Somewhere here you've got the Cygnus spacecraft, and most importantly, if I go to the next slide, then you're gonna see that this is the CRS-20 Dragon spacecraft docked to the International Space Station, and you can see from behind that cylindrical part. That's basically the unpressurized cargo area, and that's where they put all the things that doesn't need to be on an atmospheric pressure. Then a couple of days later, I went out and did the same imaging session. This is a stacked image because you can do, just like with planetary photographs, you can do stacking. So you can stack certain amount of frames, and then you can increase the overall quality of the photo. Obviously, sometimes I spend my time just marking these objects because it's easier to get familiar with what is where. And this is again an animation. This is from the 31st of March. Again, this is the Dragon docked. This is one of the Progress here, that white blob. So yeah, it's fun because you can spend awful lot of time actually marking these things. And on the right you can see one of my photos, and on the left you can see Philip Smith's photo. He took an incredible photograph of the International Space Station with the Dragon docked, and this is the trunk section. This is basically this bit. So you can see the cylindrical shape, which is incredible, I think. And also, this is his animation. This is just fantastic. So you can see on his animation, as the orientation of the International Space Station changes, you can see the 2 solar arrays of that Crew Dragon, the Dragon cargo spacecraft, and also other components. This is just really mind-blowing. This is another level. So he's using motorized tracking with a C-14, and that's a totally different level. So I captured one of the earlier CRS missions. I think this was CRS 15 in front of the sun. So this is a relatively low magnification, and I had to overexpose the space station to make the space station visible. And that tiny little speck just following the International Space Station is the CRS, is the 16 mission. Just a couple of hours before docking. Also, I managed to take a photograph about this Dragon 1 spacecraft flying solo. So it was just catching up with the International Space Station. So I knew exactly, first the International Space Station will be visible, and then the Dragon spacecraft. You need to know that we're talking about an object which is probably the size of a car, flying at around 350 kilometers at best case above the ground, and traveling just around 28,000 kilometers per hour. Pardon. So that's quite a challenge. And then you can obviously identify some of the bits, not hugely, but I mean, this is as good as it gets with a 10-inch Dobsonian telescope. And this is the CRS 18 mission. This is a very interesting animation, not just because of the quality came out nice, and this is the Dragon, and I could identify the solar panels as well on that tiny little spacecraft. But you can see that something is missing. It's usually it has 4 pairs of solar panels, but on this photograph animation we only have 2. What is the reason? So Dave Dickinson wrote an excellent article about, so this phenomena is called the high beta angle season. Every year there is one around a month, I think, especially in spring, around end of April, May, when from the International Space Station's point of view, the sun never goes below the horizon, so it never gets blocked by Earth. So it means that the International Space Station is constantly illuminated. So it means that vital components don't get the right cooling. So what they do is they rotate 2 of the 4 pairs so that they reduce the overheating, plus they try to cast some shadow onto the space station itself and reducing the heat and sort of managing the thermal issues during this period. So if you're gonna take a photograph in May, most likely you're gonna end up with 2 missing pairs of solar panel. Obviously they are there, they hasn't gone anywhere. If I do an over processing of the photos, then they come out. Obviously everything blows up, but I can bring them out. And probably the most curious of all capture that I've ever taken is a transit in front of the moon. So I went to a place. Oh, I'm sorry, I mixed up a bit. Okay, first I show you some other people's photographs. So this is Antonio Vilches, I think, took the same photo. This is from Christian Frischlin. He took 2 really nice, well, lots of photographs, nice photographs, but this is nice. This is Ethan Roberts. This is our very own Martin Lewis. There you go, he's got 2 shots. That's from Philip Smith. This is from Ralph Vandenberg. And I should have written down this gentleman's name. It's an old shot from CRS 19. I do apologize. I will do the titling for that. But this is just incredible. You can see the Dragon just approaching the International Space Station. And this is Steve Knight photograph. Okay, so this is the lunar transit I was just about to mention. So I went to a place and it was completely overcast, and the sun was still up. Cloudy, but I could see on Set24 application that it's gonna clear up at some point. So I took my chances, and it cleared up about 10 minutes prior to the transit, so I could just feel everything. Conditions were windy, there was some jet stream, but still I would say, because of the lights, the contrast, and then if I see the total picture, it was still alright. You can see some shimmering on the moon surface, but yeah, I did that. So when I saw this, I made this animation, and then I was just started thinking, what if I tried to come up with some new processing ideas? And I'm not going to lie, I've seen it on Christopher Becky's photo, where he cropped the ISS around on every single frame where the ISS is in front of the moon or around, he cropped it around. And when I did that, this was the turnout. So this is basically, imagine that every single frame you can see on this animation is just cropped with the same rectangular shape size photo. And every single time it's basically as it goes in front of the moon. And then instead of the moon is fixed and the space station is moving, we change the whole situation, and basically the space station becomes fixed, and then the moon becomes the moving aspect of the composition. So I am extremely proud of this because obviously if you have better lunar or solar transit, you can go even wilder. Obviously it works better with the lunar surface because it's different and it's full of craters. But the whole idea was to actually get to the edge and not actually crossing the moon. But yes, unintentionally it just turned out right. I think these are the radiators. Lots of people asking me that why is it burning, or I can see it's under the water, or it's firing its thrusters, and so mostly these people are coming from the flat earth aspect and they just don't want to expect that these kind of things exist. Right, so this meant to be my presentation, and then for just to end it, what I would like to show you is a website. It's my website, because it's not just self-promotion, but in the same time it's I tried to create something extremely useful. So so you can see this is how I'm tracking the International Space Station. This is how I'm manually moving it. And then if you're gonna go to menu, first of all, guide to find ISS. So on this page you will find various websites. I do apologize. Websites like Heavens Above, or ISS Transit Finder, CalSky, Spot the Station. So these websites are actually gonna help you to find out when is then your next flyby from your own location. How bright is it going to be? What's the maximum elevation? So how high is it gonna climb up on the sky? And certain informations like that. The ISS Transit Finder we're gonna show you when is your nearest transit event happening and things like that. Okay, and then we have some apps as well. These are the ones I can recommend you. So definitely, if you ever come to spacestationguys.com, check out the Guide to Find to ISS menu. Also, I do write about how I do it. Basically, what kind of method I am using, how am I tracking, what kind of equipment. This is the Telrad I'm using, very useful tool. How do I get through the predictions? How do I prepare myself? One advice is definitely whoever wanna do International Space Station photography is that you need to stick with very short exposure time. You need to align your main scope with your whatever using for aiming dead accurate. It's just not gonna work without it, because otherwise you're just gonna record the black sky instead of your object. Also, betting of mask, that's highly recommended. Very valuable thing, because if your focus is if you're out of focus, then most of your all of your images are going to end up in the bin. So basically these are the crucial things that I would definitely highlight. Try to use, I know a lot of people are using DSLR cameras. It's a feasible option. I've seen people taking, I took photos with my DSLR camera as well, but I would rather use a high frame rate camera. You're just gonna be so much better off. Yes. And if you ever going to come to my website, in the gallery you will find all my observations, and I always thoroughly write about these, so you can see what I was talking. All the predictions are for every single photograph I took. So I try to give a little bit of hand to you guys, because we are doing this together, and I'm not here to make some fortune out of it. And also guest photos. Some people are sending their photos to me. I try to create a hub for International Space Station photography. So if you have any photos which is above the minimum level, so you can see the main structure, or if you have long exposure photographs, I urge you to send them, because I have some really pretty shots on my website, and it's something I am looking forward, because some of the shots are, I mean, look at this. This is the International Space Station, and this is a 30-hour exposure time with the sun, and it's just some of these photographs, I can guarantee that they are going to blow your mind, definitely. So I think I managed to finish in time, Dave.
Yep, you did. Thank you very much.
All right.
So we've got a couple of minutes for questions, so we don't have very long before we need to go out.
Okay.
So,
if anybody has any questions, just, yeah, please. More than happy.
Make sure that you know it's the clap. So if you want to wait 5 minutes.
People want to do that? Do you want to wait 5 minutes and then we'll continue afterwards?
Yeah, we can do that.
Abby, are you happy with
I
that?
am perfectly happy, because I wanna contribute as well with this event, of course. Yeah, of course.
Okay. So we'll mute everybody and put you on hold, and I'll 10 minutes or so. Yeah.
Yes.
Wonderful.
Sounds good.
Okay, right. See you in a little while then.
Okay, doke. Alright guys, on the live feed, so what we're gonna do now is, I am not going out, but I'm going to just come here to my balcony, and probably you're gonna hear me cheering, because what's happening is, basically we're gonna go out and cheer for the NHS workers. NHS means the National Healthcare Service, and this is some kind of appreciation for the people who are doing this amazing stuff for us, everybody in the healthcare services. They are amazing doctors, carers, nurses, ambulance workers, everybody who are actually working day and night for us. So so we're gonna cheer and clap a bit. Hopefully there are some nurses and doctors around us in this area. I'm from Wimbledon, and yes, what I'm going to do is I'm gonna cheer and clap for a couple of minutes, and then we're gonna come back to the live session. We go back to the virtual talk, and then hopefully they're gonna have some questions. You can have some questions in the comment section as well, and I will more than happy to answer all of your questions after the Zoom conference ended. So please hang around with us, and hopefully we're gonna come back to the questions. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna start a clock. Okay, little problems. So I'm gonna start this clock, and hopefully by the time this clock comes back, then I'm gonna be back as well, and we're gonna continue with the questions. So please be patient and stay with us, please. And obviously listen to the cheers and the claps, because we definitely, I hope you're gonna hear some of it, because it's amazing. It's amazing. You know, this situation at the moment is crazy. Don't get me wrong, it gave me so far 2.5 weeks of pure astronomy. I could do what I love. I was imaging the International Space Station. I took some incredible fast color Venus photographs. So I definitely have the time of my life. Let me try to give you a camera, because why not? Let me just see. Audio, how do I do that? Media source, I completely forgot how I add a camera. Probably I'm not gonna be able to give you a camera. And I don't know why. Damn it. Anyways, so yes, this is a crazy situation, and it's not good. Okay, I know what I'm doing. I'm just gonna give you the camera, and that's it. So yes, it's a crazy situation, and I don't think that anybody knows exactly how we're gonna end up in this situation. Some people I can see they completely dismissing what the healthcare sector is saying. I think we need to be smart. We need to listen to what the scientists are saying, and I do believe that science is the answer for our questions and challenges, just like in the past is the same today. So we definitely need to play the game the way they are suggesting us. So just stay indoors, don't do anything, don't socialize. It's a perfect chance to actually do some self-tuition. You know, it's perfect time to read, to get involved with astronomy. So I don't know why I don't have a proper focus with my camera. Okay, probably now it's better. Yeah. So yes, okay, so it's almost 8 o'clock. So yeah, it's gonna be interesting. I'm really happy for this because it only happened once. I think some people. Yes, it started. Okay, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna turn around the camera to my window. There we go. And I really hope you're gonna hear that cheering and clapping. There you go. Woo! Woo! Yay! Thank you! Woo! Okay, I've done my bit. But this is so cool, I can tell you. This is so incredibly cool that I can hear people, actually whatever they are doing now, they basically just abandon. I mean, there's not much thing you can do at home these days, let's be frank, but it's so incredible, I'm really grateful that we are living in a society now where people are actually. Woo! Sorry. We need to cheer up. We need to cheer up for the nurses, doctors, and everybody who's keeping us alive and in our society, together in these crazy times. Yes. Hi, Bente, and hi, Philip. Nice to see you. Hey. Okay, we're gonna go back to the Q&A in a second. So I'm just gonna be quiet and I'm gonna join into the others. Okay, and I'm just gonna change this to this. All right, lovely. This is so cool. I love it. I really like it. Okay, I need to shoot down the camera on this one. Okay, just like that. Okay, and hopefully there will be some questions coming in a second, so I'm gonna wait for Dave. Okay, I think there are some. Okay, chat, great talk, thank you so much. Heading straight to your website now to check it. Lovely. Oh, okay. Right, so I got muted for now. Okay, thanks for the talk, very interesting, from Tom Clark. Okay, thank you for the great talk, very entertaining and informative. Okay, that's always good to hear. Absolutely. Oh, my light. I'm doing some DIY lights for my talk. No, that's too much. Okay, I don't have the right equipment at the moment for all the lights and everything. By the way, if you like what I'm doing, and if you were on my website, I am on Patreon, so you can support if you want. It's not a must. Even a like will do for the video. Don't get me wrong, I'm not fussy. Okay, now we are heading back to the chats. Okay, so I'm gonna unmute myself and I'm gonna join back to the conversation.
Right, I'm on here. Now that you're still there, excellent. So, anybody got any more questions?
Yeah, please.
Hi.
You said you sometimes put your scope on an equatorial mount?
An equatorial platform.
Platform, yeah.
Yeah.
I like this, that must be some big platform.
It's not. No. It's not huge. If you bear with me, I can show it to you. Just give me a. If you're interested. Okay. So it's roughly a size of a thing like that. This is how it looks. It's wooden. It can easily take the 10-inch Dobsonian telescope. It's so my scope is a Skywatcher flex tube 10-inch version, collapsible. And what this does is you set it on this side like that, and in 1 hour it will just slide from one side to another, basically. And that's what makes an absolutely manual Dobsonian telescope turns into an equatorial. Okay. Okay, I'm not familiar with the term. Okay. You're very welcome. This is a cheap one, and most of the equatorial platforms are not really made for photography. So I'm not gonna deny it's a hassle to take images with that. But to be fair, I'm doing moon and planetary images, and with a little bit of fiddling, it works perfectly well.
So, you're doing it in a short space of time, so I guess that's enough for you.
Yeah, not just for space station, but obviously it's not good for deep sky. But in America, I know there's a huge things going on. Okay, anybody? Maybe? For camera settings, yeah. Usually, okay, so I always, when somebody asks me about camera settings, I always say that the most crucial thing is that you have to have very, very short expo time. And what do I mean about that? I mean below 1 millisecond, definitely. So I know when somebody starts with imaging, then you just don't know where to start. You know, what kind of settings should you set? But this is always a good starting point, like an anchor point, that you never go over 1 millisecond. Because if you go over 1 millisecond, most likely you're gonna get blurry shots. So you compensate rather with gain or ISO, and it's a try and error game. So you do one setup, and if you see, obviously you try to aim for the same magnitude pass. What I would like to show you guys, there is one application called ISS detector. It's probably not gonna work. Nah, okay. The problem, of course, because what it does, let me see if I have, yes, I do have a screenshot. Okay, so if you can see my screen, my phone, then, okay, so you can see there are these eye icons. It looks like an eye in the middle. Some of them smaller and some of them bigger. I don't know if it's visible. So, in this column. So, the reason why I'm showing this, because the ISS detector is one of those apps that can show you how evenly the ISS is illuminated. The eyeball can be small, medium and large, and when it's the largest, it means that the overall ISS illumination is the best. When it's the smallest, it means that only the main structure probably gonna be extremely bright, and the rest is just not, because the angle of the sun, its elevation, it's all kinds of things. So this is a very, very, very good way to actually figure out that which flybys you should aim. And what I try to say, when you try one setting, always try to aim for a similar flyby. So if one is almost 4, -4 or 3 and 3.8 visual magnitude, then you don't go for a -2 visual magnitude flyby with the same settings, because obviously that's not gonna work. But this is a try and error thing, I think.
Alexander, you had a question.
Hiya, sorry.
Hey.
So you said you use a 10-inch Newtonian, Dobsonian.
Yes, that's correct.
If we want to get into this, sorry, I don't know, there's a lot of background noise from someone.
Yeah.
If somebody wants to get into this, specifically this, which telescope would you recommend? I mean, clearly, the larger the diameter, the better the resolution.
Yeah. It depends on right. So if you wanna do it manually or electronically tracked, because if you do manually, then 100%. Definitely 100% Dobsonian. I've tried with equatorial mount, I've tried with alt azimuth mount, and I've tried with a Dobsonian setup, and by far the Dobsonian is the easiest. And I tell you why. Because with the equatorial mount, the problem is the equatorial design. It's just, it just turns around. Sooner or later, at a flyby, you are going to hit the leg of your tripod, and that's a bit painful, when you hit your equipment. Alt azimuth mounts are not bad either, but when the ISS goes higher, especially when it's an overhead pass, then it's, it needs to hang somewhere, so you can just flip it around. You have your limitations. With the Dobsonian, you can go full up, you quickly turn it around, you go on the other side, and you finish where you end where you finished on the other side, basically. So it's a very straightforward thing. Plus on top of it, because I'm using a tail rod, which I don't know if you know a tail rod. So with this design, I don't need to put my head close to the finder scope and then sort of tracking it in this kind of position, you know, but instead I can kind of, like my lover, I can hug my telescope, kind of leaning on it a little bit, using my own body weight a bit, or just letting it go. And this is how, this is just the best. And obviously you need aperture, you need larger telescopes, and when it comes to 250, 300 millimeter Newtonians, that's the awkward. I used to do 127 Maxitov as well. Maxitovs and in general catadioptric designs too short. Some people stick a broom at the end between the plate. It's funny, but that works because you can have a smoother control if you just try to move it like that.
And focal length?
Obviously, I mean, I know it's a common sense that the bigger the better, but every scope has their own limitations. So with my 10-inch, what works for me, so it has 1.2 meter focal length, and 2.5 times power mate works perfectly. Probably a 3 times Barlow would be the max. I've tried with a 4 times power mate. There was almost 5 meter of focal length. My scope is just not designed for that. Not designed. Very few frames I ended up with, and nah. Probably if I would be keen, then probably it would work. But otherwise, there's no point. No point. Because my point is to get so many sharp frames. You can do stacking, you can do animations instead of shooting 5, 10, 20 good frames, and then that's it. Sometimes the less is more. That's what I'm trying to say.
Thanks, that's very useful.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Just one thing I can see on the comments. Lee Osborne was asking if you use a wedge, would that make it easier with an LX200? I'm not too sure.
Is that on your YouTube channel?
No. It's on your chat.
Oh, okay. I obviously missed that.
I'm trying to ask a question, but I get a host muted. You.
That's right. That was me.
Oh, that was you. Okay. Alexander. Okay, sorry. Apologies. Okay. I don't know the wedge, to be honest. I'm not too sure if that would help. Just to answer Lee Osborne's question, because he asked if you use a wedge, would that make it easier with an LX200? As far as I'm concerned, the LX200 is capable of tracking satellites with the right things given to it. A proper what is it called, tracking software. So look it up, because you've got a good scope to actually do some proper tracking, electronic tracking. Yeah. Okay.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. So hopefully it's inspired a few people to get out and have a go. I know it's not something I've done for a good number of years now, so it's inspired me to get out, give it another bash.
Yes, you do. Indeed.
When it comes back again.
Yes. Yes. I think there was the equatorial platforms as well, because I hear more and more. I think I read it from Damien Peach himself, that he can see himself sort of going forward, not with the SCTs, but with the Dobsonian scopes on equatorial platform. In America, it's a massive thing, and I do not get it. Why in Europe it's not? It's such a cool thing. I could see people doing with the Dobsonian telescope, taking deep sky photographs, incredible photographs. You know, so yeah, that's a good topic.
Okay, yeah. Excellent. Okay. See some of you on Saturday. Mike, you want to say a few words about that? Do you want to unmute yourself? Let's see if I can, hold on, see if I can unmute you.
Yeah, you've done that now.
Yep.
Can you hear me now?
Yep, can hear you now.
Okay. Just to remind people that your Apollo 13 talk on Saturday night to commemorate the 50th anniversary of the launch of Apollo 13. The actual launch time was 7:13 p.m. UK time, BST. So wherever our speaker is located, might be a time difference. And so looking forward to seeing some of you on that.
Okay, excellent. And we'll see the rest of you next Tuesday when Terry Lovejoy is going to tell us all about his top 10 comets. Excellent.
Just to say, Dave, sorry I was late joining this meeting.
That's fine.
I'm looking forward to downloading the talk.
I've noted it in my notes that you were late. Yep. So.
I usually will be on a Thursday. Sorry about that.
That's all right. Not a problem.
Okay.
Thanks everybody. Right.
All right. Thanks, Dave.
And see you soon.
Thanks, Dave, for having me. And yeah, everybody stay safe. And I'll see you probably all later. And yeah, thanks for having me. It's very kind. Yeah.
Thank you.
Have a good evening, everybody.
Okay.
See you guys. Take care.
Bye.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay, right. Okay, I don't know why this thing is not focusing. Probably it's low light. Okay, that was it. That was definitely a very, very, very good talk. I don't know how. Come on, it's not focusing properly. Something happened. Super strange. Super strange. Anyway, thank you very much, everybody, to chip in. Thanks very much for watching. Let me just see the comments. Okay, Philip. Yes. Okay, you are saying the answer is yes to you, and move the tripod. Okay. Look up this issue 75. Yes. Philip Smith has going to have a really good article about the International Space Station imaging in the Amateur Astrophotography magazine. So I urge, is the 75th issue. So I urge everybody to look it up. It's gonna be fun. He's a very knowledgeable photographer. He's a good friend of mine. We're exchanging lots of information through the cyberspace. And it's really cool. It's really cool. Yes, so thank you everybody for joining in. I really appreciate your presence. I hope you learned something interesting. I know it was more about the ISS and less about the imaging, but hopefully you could hear about the comments and the Q&A. If everybody has a question that oh, it's out now. Okay. Please, Philip, do a favor to me, and can you just put the link here in the comment section here under the video, so everybody who's probably here or gonna watch this in the future can actually see it. Oh, and Philip says I'm in it too, but I didn't expect that, but thank you very much. It's always a pleasure. So yes, please, if you're gonna watch it from record, or if you were here, just shoot your questions in the comment section in the future, and I'm more than happy to answer any of your questions. Please visit my website, spacestationguys.com. This is my website, and this is where I share all my... Oops. So I don't know what happened with the mic. So this is where I share all my work, and you will see the most incredible ISS photographs from all around the world. So not just mine, I'm not the best ISS photographer. Probably I'm one of the most enthusiastic one, but I'm definitely not one of the best. But anyway, yes. So thanks again. Stay safe, stay indoors, look after yourself, and have yourself a great evening. See you guys. Take care. Bye bye.